My wonderful brothers and sisters, my wonderful brothers and sisters, my wonderful brothers and sisters. Information that will make you feel good. There is you and there are people. You exist, the people exist by a power that you can't see, touch, or feel. You are creatures. You were put here on this earth to make your dreams come true or make you hell that destroys you. But you've given choice. It is what you desire. Many of you would choose heaven. Many of you would choose hell. It is prudent that you follow the spirit within oneself than follow that of another. Because unbeknownst to that type of conduct, you might be led straight to hell without even seeing where you were going. But if you walk that path, that is where you will go. That means that everybody got to know God for yourself. Nothing wrong with going to church, assembling yourselves together, talking about, testifying about the graciousness of God. The most important part of any service is the testimonials. I say that again. The most important part of any service is the testimonials, where the people get a chance to participate. They get a chance to glorify God as God has been exemplified in their lives since the last time you guys assembled yourselves together. What God has done for them and what it has led them to do for God. That is the true praise. Talking about what God has done for you is wonderful. But what you have done for God is wonderful. It's much, much more wonderful. Because God, wherever God is, He's everywhere. But if there's a special place for God to be around people that's like God, made out the same thing, and they got, and you can say and brag about what your relationship and your faith in God has caused you to do, the things of God, then heaven smile on you. They praise. Oh, right on, right on, right on. So this is why it is so important that you do your own thing. You were made not as a group, you were made as an individual. And you have the ability to become a group, collective, in matters that pertains to your everyday life. But when it comes down to life itself, that's God. That is nothing else but God. So I'm telling you right now, we were all, let's say it, let me see if I put it to you this way. For those of you who are familiar with the Bible story, God made Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were working in harmony. The whole world was of imaginations, and everything else was open to them. Of it, they can do anything they wanted to do. Just believe in themselves and the power that made them. Believe in themselves and the power that made them. Believe in themselves and the power that made them. And this went on for, I don't know how long, probably went on forever. Some people say, well, they brought up some subject matter that has to do with Cain being ousted and marrying somebody. Well, I'm not trying to get into that part of the conversation, because apparently that doesn't matter when you're listening for truth. But you can easily fill in the blank if you know the truth, which I ain't got time to tell you right now. But anyway, there came a time when Adam and Eve, who could have been just representative of the people on that earth at that time, who decided to go rogue, they listened to another voice. Was it a voice of selfishness? Was it a voice within that was telling them, what? Why not? You know, Johnny Taylor said, love is so good when you're still in it. Was it that voice? Or was there actually a snake? Oh, all of that is irrelevant. The truth of the matter is, they went contrary to the way they were supposed to. They went contrary to the way they had been instructed and the way that had worked for them. They were persuaded to try it. And who knows? Maybe that's just a part of life. Finding out for yourself that it's real, that God is real. Because when you went out there I don't know, by yourself, went out there and went rogue, well, you ended up with Cain and Abel. And you see what that is. That was you going against the truth, going against love, going against you, going against God, listening to another voice. Now you see yourselves, your two sons represent you separating yourself from God because you see how they are separated from one another. And they are not just separated from one another because you violated God, but again, they might, but not necessarily. They are separated because of the way that they were treated by you and by the spouse, by the mother, by the father. That was a division in itself. And from that point until this very day, right here today, we are still split by that same situation, that same spirit, that same attitude, that same conduct. And in order for that to change, it will absolutely require that you are born again. Born again, one of the easiest ways to know if you've been born again is you're conquering the fear of death. You're conquering the fear of death because the truth allows you to know that life is everlasting and death is just a figment of somebody's imagination that is not yours. It's just something that you believe. Even though you know you're going to die, even though you know you're going to die, you allow yourself to be controlled and manipulated with your dreams being squashed while you're being forced to do the will and conduct of somebody else by law and the threat of punishment, imprisonment, or even death if you don't do it. And yet everything that you do that they will punish you, imprison you, and kill you by law, they will pay you for doing for their purpose, for their name. Ain't that something? Well, that's the world we live in. And to counter that, ladies and gentlemen, there's only one thing you can do. If you're born again, you see it for what it is. And you have no part in it. You become free. You're not a slave to this system. You're not a slave to any human system. You're a slave to one ideology, and that is your connection, one human being with another, one human being with God. And God is love, and God exudes love wherever God is. And in the midst of hell, God walks around as love. And anybody that feels the Spirit of God in them, in America, in Russia, in China, in Asia, in Africa, they exude love in the middle of all that bull. And they don't run, they don't take no stuff. They speak it just like it is, and they stand for it just like it is. And if you don't like it, kill them. If you don't like it, kill them. Why? Because they ain't thinking about you. They know who God is. And so, ladies and gentlemen, how many of you feel like that? How many of you got that attitude about life? None of you. Every last one of you are prisoners. I don't care what church you go to. All these preachers go. Osteen, he got that big church. Just as much a prisoner as everybody else to this world. He's a bigger prisoner to this world than you are. You don't believe that, do you? But he is. Truth of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, it's about you. It's not about me sitting up here trying to point out white people as being unchristian and unloving, or a segment of white people being that way. We do it all the time. But to what end? Doesn't change anything. Or for them to say something about black people, all that kind of stuff, that's all a part. It's all a part of the junk that has come about in this man-made world. absent God. And in the United States, God is not allowed to be talked about in schools and things. You can talk about him on a private spot of ground or in a building, but don't be coming out there talking about God in the courtrooms. I'm telling you the truth. But anyway, if God is in you and you know that and you're allowing that to be, then God can't talk about anything else. But let me just go because I don't want to take too long. I just want to say one more thing. You have looked up and held Jesus as being such a wonderful power and love and so genuine that when he was hung on the tree, you call him God. He never said, as far as the story goes, he might have felt like he was God. And if he was one with God, he was God, as you would be if you were one with God. But all that the world had to offer at that time, it can be equated with all that the world has to offer today. It equals the same. 10% of anything is 10%. So all of anything is all of anything. All of everything is all of everything. So he was offered all just to do like Adam and Eve did. Listen to that snake. Listen to that voice. You can have it all. What if Jesus had been like this president they got that's called Donald Trump? Ooh, what if Jesus had been like him? Wouldn't that have been something? God damn, that would have been something fantastic. That girl, if Jesus had been like that. So, what the message of Jesus is, all that the world has to offer, and there's so much more. If you can't have it the way it is supposed to be had, by love, resist it. And this is what Jesus did. He resisted it. He said, kill me. I'm not going to listen to this voice. And so all of those who say they follow Jesus, you were tricked when you were told that you got to, if you believe that Jesus was the Son of God, if you believe that he was born of a virgin, that if you believe that he walked amongst us, that he was crucified, that he was killed and was buried and rose from the dead. If you can believe that in your heart and confess it with your mouth, then you were born again, child of God. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. That is like the people who goes to the altar and take hands and take vows, talking about their marriage. They're going to love each other for life through any kind of controversy. They were going to survive because they were one with one. And sometimes in less than a week, that fell apart because it wasn't anything. People just doing stuff, going through routines, dealing with the moment, however they see it, however they want to see it. And that's all it is to them. And then, you know, when people say they love God, it's the same thing. But Jesus said, follow me. Follow me. Now, following somebody, that means like I get in my car and I'm finna go to a little strange place and I've been looking on Google and I got the directions and you don't have Google and I tell you to follow me. You want to get there, follow me. So I crank up my old car and I'm going on down Highway 94, then I'm going to take a west on to 62 and then I'm going to take a north on to 61, south on 61. And when I make my turn, you kind of sticking close to me because you got to see me. You making the turns here and there. What are you doing? You are following me. You are following me. Now, if I tell you I'm going out of Mississippi to follow me, and then somebody asks you about my trip or whatever, you say, yeah, I know about his trip because he said he was going down here and he was going to go to this way and he was going to go through this way, and I believe that he went to all those different places. And And because I believe it, I'm going to follow him. And you still right where you started from. You haven't followed me any place. That's how come the people on the earth say, what is this thing about church? What is this thing about God? It's such a joke to them because in reality, yes, people do go out and they go to church. I mean, that tradition is practiced and they look good and they pay tithes and offerings and then some of them keep their buildings going. And some of them, the churches are falling apart, but there are people who still reaping all kinds of reward. But the world is getting worse and worse. In America, the world, out of all of that, America is so bad. America is so blind to God that in the presidential election of 2016, they went to the polls and voted for evil. Now, when I say that, I'm saying for the Republican, they had labeled the Democratic candidate, Miss Clinton, as nothing but bona fide evilness. And on the reverse on the other side, the Democrats and Republicans were calling Donald Trump bona fide evilness. It making a difference. The American people say we will accept them. But what we will do, we will vote for our evil, because our evil is lesser than the other evil. Not realizing that all that little evil needed, it was a stamp of approval from the American people. And Christians and other people of other faiths, all alike, and the people who don't even go to church and think about God, they all went to the polls and they voted for evil. Voted for evil. Now, how do you think God feels that these people call themselves knowing God and they went to the polls voting for evil? Well, see, the thing of the fact is, America is in such a desperate situation because there's nobody there that knows God. Really, seriously, there is nobody out there that knows God. Now, what am I saying when I say there's nobody out there that knows God? I'm saying if there were anybody in America that really knew God, their lives would exhibit it. With this hell that America has turned into, that one that knows God would be shining like the sun in the daytime and the moon at night, because they would be standing up against the system, standing up against all of this ugliness. Doesn't mean that the people would accept it, doesn't mean that the people would want it, but it'd make no difference. The one of God would be standing up just like that, but what he's saying to this is not he or she is not putting up with it. So if they got a dream, because I did hear somebody say the kind of life that I speak about can only be lived in dreams. So I'm saying if that's my dream, then that's the life I should be living. But being caught in this hell, the only way I can live that life is I got to be released from this one. So I guess it's just waiting for somebody to end this life so I can go ahead on to that life where people are peaceful and lovingly and joyous and happy and, oh, what are you guys waiting on? Thank you so very much. Bye-bye.